Louis L'Amour, one of the most famous of all American writers, an icon of the Western, his stories never failing to feature cowboys, Indians, badlands, and something resembling a gunfight. And usually there's a half-assed romance in there for good measure. Okay, I don't really like Louis L'Amour, but as a fan of literature and a fan of westerns, it's impossible to have never heard of him before. He wrote over 100 books, almost exclusively about the American West. His most famous book was Sackett, which evolved into a series that chronicles the saga of a family on the American frontier. His stories were formulaic as hell, but people really loved him. He wrote one novel that was set during the Crusades, and today's novel, set during modern times and featuring a sci-fi twist. The Haunted Mesa, as it's known, tells the tale of a guy, I forget his name, who's a private detective out in Arizona, or New Mexico, or Colorado, or one of them places. Anyway, he's investigating the mysterious disappearance of his friend, who leaves behind a record of strange goings-on. The detective meets many strange characters, and eventually finds out that his friend was carried off by Indians, feathers, not dots, into a portal that leads to another world. He has to descend into this world to find his friend. Along the way, he discovers that the Indians in this hellish alternate reality are ruled over by a tyrannical king hell-bent on killing the outsiders, and he discovers a living cowboy from the 1800s having wandered into this strange place. Together, they rescue the guy, kill the villain, destroy the portal, closing it off for good, and ride off into the sunset for good measure. So, when I call this science fiction, I mean that in the loosest possible sense. It's more supernatural mystery, but there is a little more to it. It's a kind of anthropological science fiction, in that the sci-fi elements are more about people and how we grow and evolve. It's easy to see a racist reading of the novel, with the Indians being from another world, not like good white folks, but I think it's more about how everyone comes from some other world. The Native American tribe in question are the Anasi. Anasi is a name given to an extinct tribe of Native Americans from the Southwest, who were the forerunners of the Pueblo tribe, such as the Hopi and Zuni. They're mostly noted for their impressive structures built into the walls of mountains, carved out huge chunks of rock to live in. Just look at them. Of course, what with these people having disappeared and left behind such a strange legacy, like so many others, it naturally brings up the question of why did they do this and what happened. Of course, it leads to people having overzealous imaginations, like how aliens built the pyramids, or aliens built Machu Picchu, or aliens built Stonehenge, or aliens ruined Indiana Jones, or whatever. Whatever happened to these aliens? Nowadays, all they want to do is conquer and destroy. Where's the helping humanity with technology and things? Well, the alien comparison isn't too far off. In fiction, aliens don't stand for literally otherworldly beings, but for human beings coming from different cultures and backgrounds. H.G. Wells' story of the worlds warring with each other has the subtext of being about British colonialism and how technologically superior cultures were eradicating more tribal cultures. And in first contact with extraterrestrial life always bears a striking resemblance to the white man first contacting the non-white man. Futurama itself simplified this idea by casting their native Martians in this light.
New planet, and act like it's sacred. With cash like this, who's going to argue?
Just put yourself back in that mentality before the internet and back when it was hard to come across people who had a different way of life than your own. You travel far across great distances and come into contact with people who have different skin colors, different customs, different religions, and even speak a language totally alien to what you yourself have. Viewed like this, it's not hard to see science fiction as an extension of westerns, with its themes of exploration, meeting new people, and even the advancement of technology. And of course, there's more than a few mixtures of the two genres. Often called the Weird West, there are numerous examples of science fiction, fantasy, horror, and God knows what else set in the American Old West. One of my favorite of this genre is Ray Harryhausen's classic, The Valley of Gwangi, about cowboys wrangling dinosaurs. They get a T-Rex and make him fight an elephant. Badass. Both Dracula and Frankenstein made appearances in the Old West. Back to the Future 3 shows them going back in time to the Old West. Clint Eastwood's classic High Plains Drifter is a ghost story, and there's even a film called The Quick and the Undead. There have been numerous books and hundreds of comic books featuring Western characters encountering supernatural entities, and even a few Western TV shows will have something strange. Like there's an episode of Bonanza with leprechauns, there was an episode of The Supernatural where they travel back to the Old West. And yes, I've actually seen episodes of The Supernatural. it was ill-advised. There's a couple of episodes of The Twilight Zone set back then, and there's even a Star Trek where they reenact the gunfight at the OK Corral. There was, of course, a show back in the 60s called Wild Wild West about secret agents who use anachronistic technology, and it was turned into a series of images. I hesitate to call it a movie. But then in my generation, there's been a big one. A one we had to win. And we lost it.
We're coming back! We're coming back!
Yep. A couple of years ago, they came out with Cowboys vs. Aliens, one of the most awesome, stupid concepts ever conceived of. It's silly, sure, but it should have been able to write itself. And it was a fucking turd. I mean, it was an okay movie, especially for the concept, but I thought it could have, not completely sucked. I kept thinking it was going to be more like Clint Eastwood meets the Predator and less pretty blonde guy mopes around for 2 hours. It interestingly does feature the Cowboys uniting with the Indians to repel the alien menace, and they all reach an understanding at the end. I mean, I guess the Indian Wars and extermination still took place, right? Like, this little incident didn't alter the course of world history. But this kind of brings us around full circle, doesn't it? No, there were no actual aliens in the Old West, but aliens do exist. They don't have tentacles coming out of their face, they don't have long whipping tails and scaly skin. They look remarkably like us, just a little different, and the only thing that really separates the aliens from the humans is what lies inside their own minds. And, if you look closely, you might find that it's not so different.